few months ago, my property manager sent me 3 contractor bids, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. And before a single hammer touched the house, I told everyone in that email thread that I believed the cheapest bid, the $2,000 one, was wrong. But then I approved it anyway. Not because I believed the contractor, not because I wanted the cheapest number on paper, because I already knew what being wrong was going to cost. 48 hours later, my phone rang. And by the time this repair was finished, my property management company had rewritten how they review every contractor bid that crosses their desk. Here's exactly what happened, and the question you should be asking every time someone hands you an estimate. I own 10 buildings, 35 rental units. After doing this long enough, you stopped looking at repairs the way most landlords do. You stop asking, what's the cheapest bid? You start asking, what assumptions is this contractor making and which ones are wrong? This particular repair was nothing exotic. A water intrusion where a deck connects to the house, a failed drip edge. Water getting somewhere it shouldn't. If you own a rental property for more than a year, you've seen this exact problem. My property manager forwarded me 3 estimates, and honestly, I barely looked at the dollar amounts. What caught my attention were the photo on the attached bids, because when I opened them, I stopped looking at the drip edge entirely. I started looking at the deck boards next to it, and something fell off. And the interesting part of the story was never written in the estimate. It was what was missing from it. I've done enough flips, enough renovations, enough rental repairs to know what water damage normally looks like, especially once it's been sitting for a while. And those boards in the photos didn't look healthy. They looked like they'd been wet for a long time, not just a weekend or a season. Could I prove they were rotten just from a photo? No, but real estate investing was never about certainty. It's about probability. And once you've owned rentals long enough, you learn to pay attention the moment probabilities start stacking up in one direction. Because if one of those boards is compromised, that opens up a chain of questions. What happens the moment somebody starts pulling them apart? What else gets exposed once they do? What additional labor does that add? How many more materials suddenly become necessary? Those are the questions running through my head, and eventually what surprised me, it wasn't that the contractor missed it. Contractors miss things. Estimators miss things. That's normal. What surprised me was that nobody challenged the estimates. Not the contractor who wrote it, not the property manager who forwarded it, nobody. If the wood around the failure point is always showing signs of damage, why is the entire estimate only talking about the drip edge? That's the question nobody asked. That's the question that changed everything that happened next. Most people hear the story and assume I rejected the $2,000 bid. I didn't. I approved it. And before the work started, I made sure every person on that thread knew exactly what I thought. The number was too low. I wasn't hiding my opinion to look smarter. I said it out loud in writing and before the contractor picked up a tool, because I wanted everyone looking at the same risk I was looking at, not chasing it after the fact. Here's where I think investors and non-investors split. The goal was never to avoid risk. The goal was to understand it well enough to price it. Instead of comparing bids, I started comparing the outcomes. If additional damage got discovered once they opened up the deck, what would that realistically cost? If those boards had to be replaced, what would that add? And if I was right about all of it, was this contractor still my best option? The more numbers I ran, the clearer it got. Even if this estimate doubled, once the real damage showed up, there was still a strong chance this contractor would land cheaper than the other 2 bids, the $3,000 and $4,000 ones. So I approved the work, not because I believed the numbers on the page, because I already priced in being wrong, and the downside still worked. And honestly, part of me wanted to see if everyone else would eventually land where I already had landed. And turns out I didn't have to wait long. 48 hours later, my phone rang, and even before I answered it, I knew why. The only thing I didn't know yet was how close my prediction was actually going to be. The contractor started opening the deck where it met the house, and exactly what I expected to happen, happened. Additional damage, additional labor, additional materials, additional cost. None of that surprised me. And that is actually the part that bothered me the most. It wasn't some freak discovery. This was visible risk, the kind that should have been factored into the estimate before anyone picked up a crowbar. As the numbers came together, the final bill started drifting towards exactly the range I had already mapped out before work even began. And honestly, the repair itself wasn't the most important part of the story. I emailed the property management company directly and included the owner, not because I was upset about the final cost. I had already expected that number. The repair itself was never the issue. The process was the issue. I attached the original estimate, I attached the original photos, and asked one question: how did nobody catch this before work started? How did this get through review? How did nobody challenge the assumptions sitting right there in the photos? Because if I could spot the possibility of hidden damage sitting behind a desk thousands of miles away, looking at a JPEG, why wasn't that conversation happening with the people actually managing my property? Ownership got involved. They reviewed everything. They looked at the same photos I did. Once they did, the conversation changed immediately. To their credit, they owned it completely. The property manager admitted they missed it. Ownership agreed. Estimates should have been reviewed differently from day one. And I ended up receiving a concession on my contract renewal because everyone understood the real issue was never the repair. It was the process that let it slip through. Before this repair ever started, I had already privately estimated where I thought the final number would land. Not exactly, but close. I figured it would settle somewhere around $4,000. Original estimate, $2,000. Final bill, just under $4,000. Almost exactly where I expected it to land, which proves something most people miss when they're shopping contractor bids. The contractor was never actually a $2,000 contractor. The real price was always there, hiding behind the drip edge. The estimate just didn't count for reality yet. Most people hear the story and think it's about a contractor. It's not. Some people think it's about property management. It's not. It's about assumptions. New investors compare bids. Experienced investors compare assumptions. Because anybody can submit a cheap estimate. Anybody can submit an expensive one. The numbers on the page don't tell you anything by themselves. The real skill, the thing that actually protects your money, is looking at the repair and asking 3 questions. What's missing from the estimate? What's likely to get uncovered once the work actually starts? What's my downside if I'm wrong about it all? Because the reason I approved the $2,000 estimate was never because I thought it was accurate. It's because I've already done the math on what wrong was going to cost me. And I could live with that number. If you've ever looked at a contractor estimate and felt something was missing, tell me what it was in the comments. I read every one. And if you want more real-world breakdowns from owning and managing 35 rental units, that is not dairy, not gurus, just what happens when my phone rings, hit subscribe, because that is exactly what this channel is.